everybody, and welcome back to Good Orderly Direction, Practical Tools of the Bible. I'm your host, Dr. Donnelly Snipes. Today we will be discussing Genesis chapter 33. Jacob reunites with Esau. So you remember in the last chapter, Jacob was headed back home. He had left Laban's house, and he and his wives and his family were headed back home. Jacob looked up and saw Esau approaching with 400 men. Jacob divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the two women servants. He went ahead and bowed down 7 times as he approached his brother. Now, if you remember back a couple chapters ago, Jacob tricked Isaac into getting the birthright, getting Isaac's blessing when Esau was actually the firstborn. So there was a lot of conflict there. So Jacob fled and that's where he went and met Rachel and Leah and Laban, and all that stuff happened. So now he's coming back home, and he's not sure whether Esau's forgiven him or not. Despite not getting the blessing that he wanted, Esau, we find, has become a prince in the land. He approached with 400 men, potentially to protect him. He didn't know what Jacob's intentions were because Jacob had already gotten that blessing. And potentially, he also may have been wanting to flaunt his power a little bit and say, you know what, you did me wrong, but look, I'm just fine, thank you very much. We don't know what his motives were. We can only hypothesize, but thinking about how would you respond in a similar situation, we come up with these potential motivations. It appears Esau had gotten over his grudge, recognizing that Isaac's blessing was actually intended for Jacob by God. Just because you are not the chosen one doesn't mean that God doesn't have a plan for you. Just because you're not the one. How many times have you fought to get something that eluded you just to realize your purpose was actually somewhere else? I remember I started out college pre-med. I wanted to go to medical school. And I fought, and medical school, particularly the math section, was just not my thing. And I switched over to psychology, and ultimately, that is where I belonged. That's what I'm good at. And I look at my friends who are doctors now, and I think, you know what? I don't think I'd be happy in that particular setting. So I didn't know it then, but ultimately it ended up being a blessing that I changed my major. And there are a lot of other examples that I can give of that, but I encourage you to think about things that you've wanted. Garth Brooks has a song called Unanswered Prayers, and it goes something like, sometimes the best things in life are unanswered prayers. And we may really think we want something, but that's not in the cards. And recognizing and being grateful for what we do have can bring so much more joy to our life. Instead of saying, I'll be happy when, or I would have been happy if, saying, what do I have to be happy about right now? So back to scripture. Esau ran to meet Jacob, threw his arms around Jacob's neck, kissed him, and they wept. All right, so clearly they have let go of their grudges. Esau looked up and saw the women and children and said, who are these with you? Jacob said, the children that God generously gave your servant. So Esau was really excited to meet these family members that he had never met before. He was honored in a way. Esau asked, what is the meaning of this entire group of animals that I met? Jacob had sent ahead some animals. Jacob replied, that was to ask for my master's kindness. Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what's yours. So in deference to Esau, as sort of an apology to pave the way, smooth things out, Jacob had sent a peace offering, if you will. And Esau recognized that Jacob has sent it, and he said, you know what? No, I don't need a peace offering. I am grateful that we are going to be making up. Jacob said, no, please, do me the kindness of accepting my gift. Seeing your face is like seeing God's face, since you've accepted me so warmly. Wow. Now remember, we've talked about how God is love, and Jacob is seeing Esau's love in Esau's face. Jacob is seeing prudence and respect and endurance and compassion and selflessness all in Esau's face and his behaviors. And so Jacob recognizes the love that is being shown towards him. That day Esau returned to the road to Seir, but Jacob traveled to Succoth. He built a house for himself and his family. Jacob, in his own way, through sending the peace offering and deferring to Esau, was trying to show respect and deference. Esau had offered to welcome Jacob into his kingdom, and Jacob said, that's okay. I'm still doing my own thing. I am glad that you're successful, and I am going to make a home for myself over here. Jacob is also sort of still reeling from living under Laban's manipulation and trickery for the past 14 plus years. So I can see where he might not want to join up, so to speak, right away. Jacob also swallowed his pride and came back to make amends with his family. He had been with Laban's family and Rachel's and Leah's family for decades now. And he recognized that, you know what, I miss my family. I need my family. And decided that he would try to make amends. He recognized that he had made a mistake. He had done something wrong. He had wronged his brother. And he went back to apologize and try to make amends. And maybe, just maybe, the conflict he experienced by living with Laban and Laban's manipulation and trickery and whatever was going on with Rachel and Leah's brothers may have given Jacob a different perspective, which made him even more grateful for the family that he did have. When we've been harmed by another, it can be very difficult to apologize. But until the fence is mended, both sides often have an undercurrent of something wrong or something missing. You may want to reach out to somebody, but know that, yeah, we're not on good terms right now. Or it may just be a hole in your heart. This passage highlights the liberation and peace that can be found in forgiveness. Both men were happier after the encounter. Think of 3 things you need to make amends for. By not apologizing for something, how is it impacting your heart? How does it impact your other relationships? How is having that offense on your conscience keeping you from being the person you want to be? What are you afraid will happen if you apologize? If you made a mistake and you need to make amends, but you're not doing it, why not? What are you afraid is going to happen if you say, you know what? I screwed up and I am truly sorry. When we harm another one, we also hurt God. If it's not practical to apologize and make amends to the person, how could you get right with God? Sometimes the person that you need to make amends to, it's not safe to apologize for some reason. Or they've passed on. They're not in your life anymore. They've moved away and you've completely lost touch. I don't think God probably expects us to hire private investigators to find people so we can make amends. But it is important to figure out, how can you get right with God? How can you make amends for whatever that is, even if you can't make them directly to that person? In this story, we see the principles of respect. Esau and Jacob both showed respect for one another. Forgiveness. Esau forgave Jacob for his past transgressions. Endurance and courage. It took a lot of courage for Jacob to go back home and risk his brother's wrath. He had no idea. There was no email, there was no phone back then, so he couldn't call up and go, hey, is it safe for me to come back? He just had to say, all right, I'm putting it in God's hands. Compassion. Jacob made a peace offering to Esau, saying, you know what? I care. I'm trying to be nice. Let's see if we can work this out. Esau welcomed Jacob with open arms and was compassionate and welcoming to him. And selflessness. Esau could have taken the cattle. I mean, Jacob had sent him a really nice peace offering. And Esau could have kept that and said, cool, I've earned this. But he didn't. He said, you know what? I have all that I need. You keep what's yours, what you've worked for, what you've earned. I'm just glad to have you back. So there is a lot of stuff in this chapter. And this is what I want you to keep seeing as we go through the Bible, literally chapter by chapter, that there is so much in every chapter, not just in every book or in every story, but in the individual chapters that we can unpack and we can learn from in order to improve our quality of life.